resources using the URL that you can see on the screen. Go ahead and take a picture of that, screen grab, whatever you need to do to make sure that you have it. It is case sensitive. So notice that that T in the username in Shelby Teachers, it's lowercase, and then in the password, uppercase T. Don't forget that S on the end of teachers. I'd left it off a couple of times and took me a while to realize it. So you have the username and password. I will share that again, but let me also bring your attention to this link that you'll want to capture. Now, all of these, this was shared with you earlier at some point by the district, by Shelby County, but you just may have overlooked it or may just not have had a chance to download the resources that are here. So this bit.ly link is going to provide you with a folder, grade level specific folders containing lots of professional development resources that you'll want to jump into as soon as possible. Some of those I will help you navigate to online today when we go to McGraw-Hill Education's Wonders Teacher Center, the teacher platform where all of your resources are in one place. I'll show you where to find them on that platform as well, but just know, easy to get to using this bit.ly link down below. So that's something else. Now, using that link, one of the resources in the first grade folder is a grade 1 note taker. Taking notes, you know this, is always a good idea, especially since during this presentation, there will be a time when I'll put up a reflection question and everyone's going to use either a digital tool such as their phone, or you can open up another window if you're on your laptop and go to a web address that I'll provide, and you'll be typing in your responses to that reflection question. So I thought it'd be fair that I let you know that having notes to refer back to will not only help you think about your response, but also it's a long time between now and the first day of school. And a lot of the information may get lost between now and then, which is understandable. So do take some notes. Okay, so that note taker is there. If you don't have it, that's fine. A sheet of paper and just take them on some paper that you have. Doesn't have to be this note taker. Okay. All right, so those are just a few things that I wanted to point out because you were early. Thank you again for that. And I know that I'm covering up the screen with my little boxes that I'm moving around here. Okay, I see, Corey, you said, and I hope I've said your name properly, that for some reason you cannot choose all participants. Yes, that is the way that this session has been set up. So all of your comments are going to go to host, presenter, and panelist. Host, presenter, and panelist. And if there's a question, and most of them are, those questions that come through and they're for the good of the all, good of the group, we will read those aloud. Everybody will get an answer to the question. You can rest assured. Thank you for sharing that. Nothing's wrong. You're seeing it correctly. Let's see. Now we have 6 participants. Bianca and Brenda have joined, Lori and Sharon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Renee. I'm going to be your facilitator for the training today. Thank you for being early. We will start on time in about 11 minutes. So I'm in Atlanta, by the way. So if you hear me say, all right, it's 2 o'clock, you know I'm on Eastern Standard Time. I have to keep remembering that. So I know we'll start at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock your time, 2 o'clock my time. Those that just joined, if you want to, I know that you're unable to send messages to the participants. All of your messages today will be sent to the host, presenter, and panelist. Go ahead and find your chat window and let us know that you are able to talk to us today, and send a hello message. Let me know that you can hear me. And I just sent you a message because we do want to hear from you. Even though everyone has been muted upon entry, you can imagine with so many on the call, we've been having up to 100 on some of these calls. So it was just best to mute everyone upon entry. But again, we do want to hear from you. So please find the chat box, send a little message. Thank you, Lori. Let us know that you're with us, you're ready, you can hear us. Thank you, Doris. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Okay, and you all, you can talk to me. Don't worry, I'm not going to call on you. You know how sometimes we're, okay, I'll chat, but don't call on me during the presentation asking me questions. I'm not going to do that. Good to hear from you. Okay, because you are early, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of important pieces of information. Those of you that just joined, you should have received a bit.ly link, and with that came the URL to get on the McGraw-Hill Education Wonders platform, where you can use the username and password that you see here on the screen and access all of your resources. Go ahead and take a picture of that or screen grab that, however it's best. The reason I didn't say write it down is because if it's case sensitive, and if you don't type it in exactly the way it appears, you won't be able to get into the site. But towards the very end of the presentation today, we will go digital, and I will show you how to find some of the key professional development resources and a little bit of how to navigate your new Wonders 2020 platform. Okay, I'll share this again before we close out. We are using the chat window. So thank you, those of you that sent a message. You let me know that you could find it. We do want to hear from you. Send your comments as I'm talking throughout this presentation. I want to be able to address your questions, your comments. So do use the chat window. And see this bit.ly link down below? That is the link that was sent earlier that houses a folder just for first grade. All of the grade levels are there, but there is one just for you, first grade teachers, that has key resources. One of those key resources will be a note taker. And this note taker follows the sequence of the presentation. And so if you don't have the grade 1 note taker in front of you, I do encourage you to take some notes today. I know you were going to do that anyway, but I encourage you to take some notes today, not only because there will be a stopping point where you will reflect on what you've learned up to that point, and you'll be typing in your responses digitally. They will come to a place where all of your responses will be displayed. So just want to let you know in advance that that's coming up. And with so much information, it's always good to be able to refer back to those notes. Okay, so make sure you have that. And we'll talk about professional development credit a little later. Okay, let's see if we have more participants who have joined. My lucky number, by the way, 13. We have 13 participants on the call. Yes, I know you see a big blurb on the screen right now. That's my window, my participants window open so that I can see who has joined. I will make it disappear before we start. So Abdul, I think you may have been the first one on the call. And Vivian and several others have joined. Welcome, everyone. And again, I'm Renee McCown. I'll be your facilitator for today's training. We are going to start right on time, and the time is going to fly by. If you have any questions before we even get started, feel free to type those. Thank you, Doris. Hello, you're here. Thank you, Brenda. Feel free to type any questions that you even have now before we get started into that chat window. And I'm happy to address those. You may have some wonderings. Okay, and no wonderings right now means that you just came eager and open to learn all that you can. I bet you as we move through the presentation today, you'll start to think about how you can use wonders most effectively in the classroom, and maybe, am I getting this or will I have that? You'll have some questions and you'll type those in at that time. If there is someone from the school district, I'm trying to see if there's someone else as a panelist. If you are on the, not on the call, but if you are in our virtual meeting, I've sent you my phone number. And if you would please send me a text message, that would be great. We have 18 and more to come, I'm sure. Welcome those who have just joined. Welcome to Wonders 2020 training for first grade teachers. This is, I think, the third grade one training that we've provided, and all of the sessions have been jam-packed with teachers that are ready to hear about their new reading program. And hopefully you've talked to some of your colleagues that attended some of the earlier sessions and they were enthusiastic and it has rubbed off on you. Oh, 1 minute, 1 minute, and we will start. That will be our official start. Again, in just 1 minute. Thank you. We have 20 attendees so far today. Those of you that just joined, I am going to just greet you before I go ahead and disappear here. Okay, as I promised, it is 1 o'clock on the dot, your time. It is 2 o'clock my time. Those of you who just came into the virtual meeting, I'm in Atlanta, so it's 2 o'clock my time. So if you hear me, tell you the wrong time, you now know why. Thank you for joining today's first grade Wonders 2020 professional development. It is going to be a great time together. It's going to fly by, I promise. And as I mentioned before, we are going to stop at a point and make sure that all of your questions are addressed. This is the access to the digital. You can go ahead and jot down the URL, my.mheducation.com. The username and the password, they are case sensitive. So as I said to the group earlier today, if you want to take a pic or screen grab that in some way, do so, because if you don't get it just right, you won't be able to get into the site. Okay, so make sure you take that down. Hi, Angela. I'm invisible, but I just want you to know I can see you, Miss Angela Gardner. Thank you for joining us. And I think Angela said I didn't want to be seen. Okay, no, as you're shaking your head. Okay, let me just tell you, Angela, somewhere, if that wasn't your intent, there is near your name an icon of a video. And if you just click right on it, you will no longer be seen. But you have a beautiful face, and I'm glad to see you. Okay. Alrighty, everyone. So you have the digital access. Today, you were muted upon entry. I know you figured that out. It's just the best way for us to manage today, but don't think that means that we do not want to hear from you, because I do want to hear from you. Please use the chat window for any questions as well as any comments. And as I mentioned before, there will be a stopping point, and we'll make sure that those questions are addressed. PD, you received from your Shelby County literacy leaders this bit.ly link. If you use this link, you will find several grade level specific folders. Of course, one of those folders will be for grade 1. And in that folder, teachers, we have placed some helpful professional development resources to just get you started early. For those of you that would like to jump in and go ahead and become acquainted with your new program, you want to definitely look through the resources that can be found using this bit.ly link below, and just click on it, and it's intuitive. You'll see the folders there with the resources. One of those resources is going to be a note taker. Some of you may have already been in that folder. This is the note taker that I would invite you to use as I move through the presentation today, but it's not necessary that you use this note taker. As long as you have a pen or pencil in hand and you're jotting down notes, it's going to be very helpful to you. You know, we always have graphic organizers. This is like a graphic organizer in Wonders for students to use. Even in first grade, they're using various graphic organizers to what? Apply the comprehension skill throughout the week. And so the same way we start early, organizing our thoughts and making sure that we can extract that most important information. I really hope that you will do that today. There will be a point in this presentation where I will provide a link to a website. I'll pose a question and you will type in your responses, reflecting on what you have learned about wonders up to that point. Now, it'll be much easier to recall that information if you have it written down. So this note taker or another one will suffice. The last piece of information, little housekeeping before we get started, is related to your professional development credit. Now, if there is someone from Shelby County on the call right now, go ahead, feel free to unmute and jump right in. I'll give a few moments. Okay, someone will be on the call, but for now, I will just let you know that if you are calling in right now, so you're not using the link that you received, that you went through a browser, and you are actually just listening in, so you're not viewing my screen, you're just listening in. From what I understand, you will not be able to receive the professional development credit. I think that is the most important thing that you need to know today. If you have any additional questions, you can read what's on the screen, but please do take down the names of your literacy leaders right here. Take down their names and their email addresses, their email addresses, so that you can get in contact with them directly. And you're very clear about how you will receive credit. Okay? But you must log in through a device to receive credit. Okay, so let's get started, teachers, first grade teachers. Here are the learning objectives for this afternoon. By the time we complete this training together, you will gain an understanding. You will have gained an understanding of the main print components and their instructional purpose. You're going to walk through the unit and a lesson, so you'll know exactly how it unfolds. Did I tell you that I'm a teacher? Once a teacher, always a teacher. And we want to know, what is this going to look like in my first grade classroom? How does a lesson unfold? You'll see that today. You will gain an understanding of the instructional flow for not only whole group, but you will transition throughout the week on probably a daily basis into small groups. So we'll talk about what that will look like as well. Today, you're going to gain an understanding of all of the assessment options. We'll go online and explore some of the digital resources. Now, keep in mind, this is an overview. Subsequent trainings have already been scheduled where we will focus on just the digital resources, but I will give you a taste of it today. And then lastly, you will gain an understanding of some additional professional development. A lot of times during the summer, it's ideal, those who are really ambitious and they just can't wait for someone to provide the training. They're, ones that want to take the initiative, and they're self-starters and want to keep learning as much as possible on their own. We've made it possible for you to do that. And so I'll show you some places online where you can get started. All right, so inside of the bit.ly folder, that link that I shared, you will find a list of all of the print components that you will receive. You're going to receive access as a teacher to the digital platform. Your students will all be able to enter with their own distinctive credentials into a student platform. But this list tells you that, and it also highlights for you what you're going to get in print. And we always want to know, what will I receive? Just know that I'm not going to read through the entire list because you have it, but I do want you to understand that sound spelling cards and letter cards, a lot of oral vocabulary cards, workstations for when you are with a small group and you're wondering, whoa, what are all my other students going to do? You won't have to any longer look for those resources. You're not going to have to buy anything. So you're going to have all kinds of activities at your disposal for that small group time, keeping the other students focused on the objectives, which of course will be tied directly to your Tennessee ELA standards. So that's good news. Check out this list when you get a moment. Beginning now with the program overview and structure. Big picture, let's start there. As first grade teachers and in every grade level with Wonders, you are teaching about different genres and through genre. So through and about genre, you're going to do that utilizing many different texts, a variety of texts. First grade teachers, you'll have some big books. And we know that first grade teachers still love to use those big books to read aloud to their students. Your students will participate in shared reading. There will be independent reading selections. And of course, a lot of level readers for that guided reading small group time. And in each and every one of those selections, there will be a focus on a particular genre. That could be biography, or maybe it's fantasy. Whatever that genre is, your students are going to learn about the characteristics of that genre while simultaneously building knowledge around a universal concept, a big idea. You know, one of the words that you'll hear me say repeatedly today is connected. Everything in Wonders 2020, the instruction, it's all connected. So I want you to listen out for that word today, because that's a key kind of theme, a key takeaway, if you will. So I want you to listen out for that word, connected. Your students are going to talk about, read about, and write about not only the genre, but again, that universal idea, that key concept that they're building knowledge around. Isn't it important to talk about it before we just jump in and start reading about it? And anytime you read about something, one way for students to demonstrate their understanding is to always write about it. So know that these are just some big ideas to have in your mind about Wonders, key understandings. Now, teaching through genre, you're doing that using a variety of texts, as I said. Those texts are connected. How are they connected? Think about it. How do you think they're connected? They're going to have the same content focus. Each and every one of those selections will inform an essential question. So your students are going to build knowledge time and time again around a key idea, essential question. In each and every one of those selections, they're going to practice the same phonics or vocabulary, oral vocabulary, and high frequency words. The same comprehension skill and strategy, as well as there will be the same writing focus. Now, grammar is going to be connected as well. And this is not true of just whole group instruction, for small group instruction as well. So what does that mean, first grade teachers, for your students? How important is repeated exposure to the same skills, the same strategies in order to achieve mastery? You're not going to feel like you're jumping around this when fall comes with your new program. You're not going to feel like you don't have adequate time to really teach to the depth of the standards intended for you to teach to, because you'll come back time and time again to that same content focus and skill focus. And that's a wonderful thing. Your teacher's edition, first grade teachers, is, of course, coming to you in print, but you also have it online. I'm going to show you where to find it today. It's downloadable in PDF format. And so even when school starts, should you decide, I prefer the online version, I can just download the unit that I'm working on. And once I have it saved, wherever you'd like to save it, I don't even need an internet connection to get to it. That's the beauty of having it both ways, print and digital. Now, once you receive your print teacher's editions, you are going to also have a set of snap-in tabs, teachers. Those snap-in tabs will be placed, some of them at the beginning of the unit, some at the lesson level, you'll know, but 100% of your Tennessee ELA standards are going to be on those pages of the snap-in tabs so that you can immediately identify where those wonders lessons are taught to address each and every one of your standards. Where are they? You won't have to hunt and to find them. Embedded social studies and science standards. Isn't it nice to know that, well, it's not, maybe it's a secret, maybe it's not. A lot of teachers tell me, I know I felt this way as well, that they have a tough time getting in that science and social studies, especially in first grade when we are so focused on the literacy, getting our students to read. We feel like sometimes we're trying to squeeze in the science and the social studies. Well, teachers, it's embedded. So you'll be able to often achieve these two important objectives simultaneously. And so you'll also find on those snap-in tabs where those opportunities exist to get in a little bit of science and a little bit of social studies. Now, anytime you see that little pencil icon, I'm inviting you to take some notes. I want you to take even more notes, but the note is going to, again, the pencil icon is directing you to the note taker that we placed inside your bit.ly folder. And so we're following the sequence of that note taker again. And so the unit and the week structure, let's talk about that. In first grade, you're going to start off, teachers, with 3 weeks of Start Smart. What is Start Smart? Before we go any further, let's just define it. You know how typically you come in, you get your teacher's guide, and you start teaching. You go right to work. Unit 1, week 1. Well, not with Wonders. We understand that you need some time before just jumping right in. A few weeks to get to know your students, to set some expectations, to teach them the routines, just like we teach them routines for standing up, moving to the door, going to the restroom, sharpening the pencils. There are some important instructional routines that you're going to have time to introduce your students to. And of course, you'll be modeling them and teaching them throughout the year, but you'll have time in the beginning of the year to do this as well. So that's Start Smart. We're going to talk more about that. Digitally, you find Start Smart. So for those of you who I know took that username and those passwords that I presented earlier, and you're online right now playing around, I understand it's hard to resist. Unit 0 in the drop-down menu, that is Start Smart. Now, when you are in your print, you're going to find Start Smart is right at the front of your Unit 1 Teacher's Edition. Moving on, in first grade, there are 6 units of instruction for the year. And in each one of those units, you're going to find 6 weeks. So 6 units for the year, 6 weeks in each unit. Weeks 1 through 5 of a unit will be new learning. But when you come to week 6, that's going to be review and assess. A lot of times teachers call it catch up as well, because if there's something that you don't get to in weeks 1 through 5, you can take some time in week 6 and catch up. Now, first grade teachers, don't think that you're waiting all the way until the end of a unit to check in and find out how your students are progressing. Not at all. We'll talk today about progress monitoring assessments every week, checking in with your students and making sure that those skills, those strategies that you've been teaching all week, that your students are achieving the desired results. So that is the unit structure. As you open that teacher's guide, you will find a page that looks like this as you're getting ready to go into a unit, and it will say unit overview. In that unit overview, it will introduce a big idea. So for this unit 2, big idea is what makes a community? Our community, and the question is, what makes a community? And each and every week, there is an essential question related to that big idea. So jobs around town, we have what jobs need to be done in a community. And remember, we talked about the big book and the shared read and the level readers, all that, the variety of texts that make up that text set will inform that essential question. Students will build knowledge around that essential question. You see, they do that weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you already know that when we get to week 6, it's reviewing, it's assessing. Maybe for some students who are ready, we're going to take them further and extend through a project or some activity, maybe some research. And it's what else? Do you remember? Catch up. That's right. If your students, took a little longer than what you desired, or maybe you took a little longer with a particular lesson because you needed to, this is the time where you can catch up in week 6. Now, also, right at the beginning of a unit, you're going to find a skills trace, a key skills trace. Here's what's wonderful about the key skills trace. It lets you see exactly where the skill is introduced. So this skill, character setting and events, it gets introduced in Unit 2, Week 1. And by the way, that's the unit and week that we're going to kind of use as our example today. It's introduced, but what if I give that progress monitoring assessment that we talked about, and not all of my students had a firm grasp or understanding of character setting events? We're not going to worry, because we know that not all students learn at the same rate on the same day at the same time. That's why there are multiple opportunities to review character setting and events, and then to assess. So just know that Wonders, this is a big takeaway, teachers, has a recursive nature. We are constantly coming back to review. We know that in order to build up to that level of rigor within the spirit of the standard, we must provide students with repeated exposure and practice with those skills, those strategies. And that's exactly how Wonders was designed. So you'll find that skills trace up front. Let's turn our attention to what happens when you walk into the classroom in the fall and those little ones are with you. You're going to start smart. So there's a place on the note taker for Start Smart. Let's really unpack this. Start Smart is a time for you to get ready, get your students ready, teachers. It is a time for you to introduce key routines that will be used over and over again throughout the year. Every aspect of the instruction in Wonders has a solid research-based instructional routine associated with it. So I'll give you an example. If you were teaching the high frequency words, it's the read, spell, write routine. If you're teaching your students about close reading, how to close read. There's a routine. This is your time to introduce your students to those routines, okay? It's also a time just to get to know them. You have been away from them. They have missed the most valuable, and I'll say it again, you are the most valuable asset in a student's life, I think, when it comes to their academic growth. And even more than their academic growth, because we know as teachers, you are the second parent in that classroom. And so all this time has been lost. We already understand that there is summer lag, as it's been referred to, but now we've been away from each other even longer. It is going to be critical, teachers, that you take this time during Start Smart to listen to your students read, to listen to assess them, to find out those skill gaps and their strengths, of course. And so Start Smart is going to give you that breathing, that little breather where you don't have to feel compelled to jump right in, because you can do all of these critical things. You are going to spend some time not just focused on the ABC and the 1, 2, 3, I say, the academics, but as we just said, you've always done this. You've always taught more than just the academics, because that's what you do as good teachers. Habits, behaviors, right? Wonders integrates social emotional learning and habits of learning. These are behaviors that you want your students to develop. And they're always going to be in the form of I statements, such as, I write to communicate effectively. I believe I can succeed. That's a positive attitude, right? And so there are several habits of learning that you teach and model for your students throughout the year. They are not taught in isolation. They are integrated with all of the wondrous instruction. Start Smart gives you a chance to talk about those habits with your students, as well as some social emotional learning skills or competencies, some positive social emotional learning competencies will be developed this year using Wonders 2020. Fortunately for your students and for you, it's going to be a lot of fun, because look who McGraw-Hill has partnered with to wrap all of this rich multimedia around the social emotional learning content. None other than our friends from Sesame Street. And I won't ask you to put into the chat window who grew up watching Sesame Street, because you know what? I'll be the first to say I grew up watching Sesame Street, the Electric Company. And so now you know, maybe you did too. And if you didn't, you still know about it. And so we want Wonders to be fun, not only for your students, but for you teachers. There's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, it promotes success when our students are enjoying the experience. It's fostering a love of reading, but also these positive behaviors. So that social emotional learning is coming to you through through Sesame Street and our friends there, a lot of engagement. Let me just go back and say, what kind of traits should you look for? What kind of skills? Developing self-confidence, persistence, this idea that, you know, we don't always get it the first time, but we're not going to give up. Care and empathy. How important is that? When we focus not only on the academics, but also we bring in these habits of learning and these social emotional learning skills, it's going to create a classroom culture that's conducive for learning. You're going to have a better experience, and your students will as well. And we're setting them up for success for life, not just for their grade school years, but skills that will carry them throughout life. So enough about that. And let's talk about what else happens during Start Smart. During Start Smart, you're also focusing on those routines, the tried and true, solid research-based routines that are used throughout Wonders. This is the read, spell, write routine for when you're teaching the high frequency words. Well, let's talk about it during Start Smart. Collaborative conversations. Wonders is grounded in speaking and listening. Your students are always invited. You're going to see these little, the little icon with the two students talking together throughout, because they talk about it. Remember, before they read about it, they're always collaborating. Well, that conversation is a conversation that students need to learn how to have. They need to learn how to give eye contact, how to stay focused, build on one another's ideas, ask follow-up questions. You're going to find that these routines are in your not only Start Smart lessons, but in this instructional routines handbook that is in the bit.ly that was provided. I will also show you how to get to it online today, because it's also housed on your teacher platform. You're going to have a physical copy of it come fall. Teachers, I can't say enough about the instructional routines handbook. Please make note of it. It is, I always say, it is a prized possession of teachers. When they discover it, they're saying, this is full of everything that I wish had been taught in college. Sometimes in our undergraduate studies, we don't focus on, for instance, a lot of phonics instruction, routines for how to segment the word, how to blend, how to isolate the sound. It's kind of as if you should just learn as you go. And teachers tell me that all the time. Well, you know what? We're going to step out that instruction for you in this instructional routines handbook and a lot more. We heard teachers when they said, we also would love it if someone would come into the classroom and model it. I would like to see these practices that are in this handbook in action. We've done that for you too, teachers. So online, and I'll show this to you today as well, model lessons, so that when you want to see that phonics lesson or that close reading routine modeled, you're going to see real teachers with real students using Wonders and these routines in the classroom. So I'll point that out to you as well. The last piece that I'll talk about as it relates to Start Smart will be the assessment piece. I mentioned it earlier, but it bears mentioning again, that it's been longer than usual that you and your students have been apart from one another. And when they come back, your district, Shelby County leadership team, will decide on the placement and diagnostic assessments that will be administered, so that you can begin that first unit with some idea of your ability groups, who is approaching level when it comes to certain skills. And these groups are fluid. We know that students are moving in and out of groups. To be placed in a group does not mean you stay there. We understand that. But wouldn't it be helpful in the beginning of the year for you to have a sense of who's approaching level? That's what you'll see in Wonders. We call it, you'll see AL, and AL is for approaching level. That's positive. You're on your way. OL is on grade level. BL is beyond level. And so this will help you to create those initial groups and understand just who your students are. So that's something else that you'll focus on during Start Smart. Isn't that wonderful? I know you're over there, you're saying yes. Okay, turning our attention away from Start Smart, let's talk about the beginning of a week. We've set up the unit. Let's talk about the week now. And there is a place on your note taker for this overview. It's going to be Teacher Edition Front Matter on the note taker. Teacher Edition Front Matter. And then you'll see student outcomes. Beginning with the end in mind is so important. This page is going to show you right up front, remind you of what the key concept is and the essential question. Also, it's going to invite you to create anchor charts throughout this lesson with your students. What kind of anchor charts, you may be asking? Well, what about an anchor chart on that essential question? As your students are building knowledge around the different jobs that need to be done in a community, and they are sharing from their learning, you can jot that down on that essential question anchor chart to make their learning visible, to help them to recall what they've learned so it won't get lost. They can use those charts as visual cues throughout the lesson, and that's great scaffolding for them. You can do an anchor chart on the comprehension skill for that week. And or maybe the strategy, the genre. Remember, we talked about we're teaching about genre. Well, if this is a fantasy, what are the characteristics of a fantasy? And you and your students create these anchor charts together. That's one wonderful way to make their learning visible. Also, you will want to see right up front the outcomes. Where am I driving? What am I expected to teach? What are my students expected to know and be able to do when I complete this lesson? Now, you can see that there's quite a bit here, quite a few bullet points, and it may seem like, whoa, I'm doing a lot. Teachers, only where you see that little red check mark is that skill tested. And I can tell you right now, in every single lesson, students are going to cite evidence. We're going to get them in the habit of backing up their responses with text evidence. So you'll always see that. They're always making inferences. And so these are things that will be repeated, but it's only determining characters, setting, and events that will be tested as the comprehension scale in this upcoming lesson, okay? Now, as I move over to foundational skills, students are isolating phonemes and words, the phonics and structural analysis. It's going to be on E, spelled E and EA. And you can see the instructional or the inflectional ending is ED and so on. They have their high frequency words. So only the check mark is what is tested. Looking at the foundational skills overview, there's a place on your note taker for this. The phonics, I want to key in that it's short E and that phonics is always connected to the spelling. That's important for you to know. So the spelling list, the spelling words the students will have this week, they're all going to have short E words. They may also contain a few of their high frequency words, because everything in Wonders is what? Connected, right? So the phonics is connected to the spelling. Look at the variety of tools that you will use to ensure the effectiveness of that instruction. You know, sound spelling cards, word building cards, lots of games online for practice and reinforcement. These are learning games and more to deliver that instruction. Make sure that we are engaging students in the process. And then finally on the, well, down at the bottom, it says apply skills to read. Yes. Why do we teach the foundational skills, the phonics skills? Because we're ultimately getting our students to reading, becoming independent readers, strong readers and writers. So you're going to see that foundational skills are always taught explicitly outside of text, but immediately applied within connected text. So stay tuned for more of that. And as you go through your lessons, always reviewing previously taught sound spellings, okay? So firming that up before we move on to the new sound spelling as it relates to foundational skills. You'll see opportunities to check for success and at point of use, differentiated instruction for students who are, again, AL, approaching level, on level. They may need just some practice. The approaching level students may need reteaching. They may even need some targeted strategic tier 2 intervention. And teachers, you will see that built into your small group lessons. All of this already done for you, as well as extending and enriching for those beyond level students, those activities for them and for your ELL students at point of use. Independent practice to meet the needs of those students who are ready as well through games and activities and practice exercises. Okay. Now, as we move on to the literature overview, there's a place on your note taker for this, teachers. A display of the variety of texts you'll see here. And again, being reminded that students are reading about the jobs that need to be done in a community, and that will be through a big book selection. Of course, you're reading to them. They will then have an opportunity through the shared read to build knowledge around that essential question, as well as the authentic literature found in the literature anthology that always has a paired selection. So our first graders are reading and writing across multiple texts. We're getting to the writing, but they are reading and writing across multiple texts. During small group instruction, you'll have a variety of leveled readers. We'll dig into those today. And for your interactive read aloud experience, teachers, there is a selection from the classroom library. In this lesson, it's going to be a little prairie house. So we're going to walk through a little prairie house in a short while. And then the last note under the overview section will be on the writing and small group overview. So the writing, what are students writing in first grade? Well, they're learning about that E, the short letter E, the short sound, short vowels. They're going to also write the letter E. They're going to write words with E and EA. Well, why EA? Because they're not just working on words like bed or set. But what about bread? BREAD, or head. So they're going to see those words as well, and they're going to write those words. They're going to write their high frequency words, and they're also going to write sentences with that inflectional ending ED. So all of this, teachers, you are beginning with the end in mind, seeing exactly what students are doing. For small group instruction, I just will really go into it in a little later, but for now, I have to highlight the workstation activity cards because teachers have said for a long time, I know what I'm going to do with my students in the small group. But the dilemma sometimes comes in with having enough resources and activities for all the other students who aren't with me in the small group. And one of the key resources that teachers have, that you will have, are these differentiated workstation activity cards. And so I'll tell you more about those when we come to small groups. Okay? All right. Know that we are going to come to a stopping point, and any questions that I'm not seeing, by the way, now that you're putting into the chat box, we will address those. But let's continue on and go through a week and see how that week unfolds. You'll find the suggested lesson plan, and that suggested plan is going to be a little tweaked by your district literacy leaders. It's going to be very similar, tightly connected to what you see on the screen here, but just know that you're actually going to follow your district's curriculum map that will be provided. What you should know here, looking at the screen, is that in Wonders, when you see pages that have a white background, that signifies whole group instruction. When you see pages with the yellow background, the yellow pages we call them, then it signifies small group instruction. So small group and whole group instruction already, of course, done for you. And that's what, just to navigate your teacher's guide, it's important for you to know that. So we're starting out and we know that we're talking about the jobs that can be done around town and or in a community, you may begin with an interactive read aloud experience where the selection, A Little Prairie House, is going to be introduced to your students. And this interactive read aloud is extended complex text. So this is text that students may not be able to access on their own. And so through you, they can see modeled that comprehension strategy that they're going to focus on in this lesson. They are going to have an opportunity to build knowledge around that essential question, because yes, the interactive read aloud, of course, is connected to the essential question. You can begin those conversations about the genre and the characteristics of realistic fiction. So introducing A Little Prairie House. Now, see, this key word is interactive. Students aren't just sitting at your feet listening. They are participating. The first time you read, and this is Doug Fisher's close reading routine, your students are going to listen to sections just to get the main idea. But you're going to go back in for some purposeful rereads to analyze the author's craft and structure, lots of questioning techniques used, and then finally integrating some new knowledge. Your students are partnering, they're having discussions with each other, but they're also having those fruitful class discussions, whole group discussions. There are activities that accompany your classroom library, full lesson plans, as well as activities for the students, where they are using graphic organizers to organize their thoughts, to delve more deeply into author's craft and structure. So you will find those to set up the lesson, the big idea is tied to it, and you're really priming your students, getting them ready for that shared reading experience as well. The shared reading experience will take place utilizing the reading writing companion. The reading writing companion, teachers, is a tool that every one of your students will have. Notice I said it's a tool. It's not a workbook. It is a consumable. Your students will have it replaced each year for the life of the adoption. They'll have one for every single unit. And inside of this reading writing companion lives the shared read. But your students are reading with a pencil in their hand. The shared read is there, but when they read about it, they also what? Write about it. So in this reading writing companion, students also write about the shared read. That's the analytical writing that they do. They're going to find those connections to the science and social studies standards. This is important, teachers. They're not sitting at their desk independently filling out pages in a book. No, this tool you use to teach and to model all of the key skills and strategies. So remember that comprehension skill? It was about the character setting events. You're going to see how you're teaching and modeling for your students how to understand character setting and events. You are modeling for your students how to identify those high frequency words, apply that phonics skill, because this is decodable text. In the shared read again is decodable text. So that allows students to apply those foundational skills. They're annotating every step of the way. So let's talk about the first page of the lesson. When your students open up their reading writing companion, they're going to see a visual, something that's hopefully captivating to them, like this one. This photo is going to get your students thinking about what jobs need to be done in a community. And then your students will be invited to what? To talk about it. And as they are talking about it, some students in first grade will have more background knowledge than others, and that's okay, because we're also going to build some background around that essential question with an essential question video. Now, I'm not going to play the video. I'm going to show you where to find it because the audio doesn't come through very well. I'm just going to let you see and kind of jump through
jobs around
the
town.
visuals. Maybe you can see.
What jobs need to be done in a community? Every day, there are jobs that people do all over town.
Okay, so again, I don't think that comes through very clearly, but I'm going to show you where to find that essential video online. So once students watch the video, oh, do they have something to share? Now they have more ideas about what jobs need to be done in a community. So from there, we're going to talk about vocabulary. We want students to have language, right? To talk about the jobs that can be done in a community. Oral vocabulary, so key. You teachers in first grade will have a host of oral vocabulary cards that on the back have Isabel Beck's guided routine for teaching vocabulary. I'll talk about that routine. On the front of the card, there's going to be a great visual, because these are visual vocabulary cards, and then that routine is on the back. Also, you have your high frequency words on some of those cards. So lots of tools for teaching, for that instruction, utilizing what? Those routines, those research-based routines that we talked about. Now, you've developed an understanding, or you're developing an understanding of that big idea and building knowledge with the interactive read aloud. Remember the little prairie house? But you also have your big books, your literature big books, first grade teachers. You'll have 16 for the year, and they will be utilized the first half of the year. Midway through, when you get to Unit 4, your big books are going to slowly transition and fade away because your students are, let's just say, they're growing up. Okay, so, but the first half of the year, you're going to have your big books as well to introduce the big idea, the essential question, what jobs need to be done in a community. And so this is more, again, practicing of the strategies and the skills, okay, that students are going to work on. Foundational skills. Now, before our students, we opened up the reading, writing companion, but notice we didn't talk about what students do, because before all they've done so far is what? They've talked about it. They've talked about the concept. They've shared their ideas. They've watched the essential question video. Before we have them reading, we need to do a little word work, don't we? And so phonemic awareness, word work will always start with that phonemic awareness, gradual release model, I do, we do, you do. So we're going to start with that explicit explaining to students that lesson, then moving on to some guided practice, and then students practice. From phonemic awareness, now that they've practiced with the sound, they've heard it, there are lots of, by the way, online songs and dance. So if you want your students up moving and listening to poems and chants and rhymes, the research tells us that that's good instruction. You're going to find that online. But then it's time to connect that sound to the letter. And that's where the phonics instruction comes in. And you'll have a set of sound spelling cards as students are working on that eh sound in words such as egg. They're going to move on to blending, because remember, the tested skill was blending words with short E. And so first we're going to model with using our word building cards. So boys and girls, this letter is S. It has the S sound. This letter is E. It has the E sound. And we're going to talk about how together all of these letters set And you're going to model for your students. That's starting at that very basic sound level to the word level, always going back and practicing with those previously taught sound spellings, remember? Then in connected text at the sentence level before ultimately applying within good job, Ben. And good job, Ben is going to be that shared read. Okay, so word work before we just jump into the shared read. Now, if you need more practice for the foundational skills in connected text, you will find decodable readers. You're going to have some decodable readers, first grade teachers. In your whole group instruction, you will see pages referenced. Have children read Ted Gets a Job. Now that's a different selection. This is the decodable reader, but it says that the instruction is on page what? T69 and T76. So we're going to take this to small group, and I'll show you when we get there the instruction for using those decodable readers in small group. I just, of course, know that pages T69 and T76 are going to be yellow pages, and that's going to be small group instruction. We like to, you may have heard this saying before, sometimes in whole group, you say it and spray it. You're just going out all of your instruction to the sea of students sitting in your classroom. But you know, some students are hiding behind other students, and it's just hard to have your eyes on every student to hear from each and every one of them, to see exactly what they're doing and to know where they are. But when we take it to small group, well, that's a different story, because whether every student in Reading Wonders will have time with you, whether they are approaching level or on grade level or beyond level, they'll have time with you in the small group so that you can pinpoint their specific needs, their areas where more support is needed, but also those areas where they are excelling, where they're strong. So the decodable readers are taken to small group in first grade. High frequency word instruction. Remember, we have our routine. That's the read, spell, write routine. So you will have instruction with those high frequency words are going to appear in that shared read. So it's not just the phonics skill that we need to address, but we also need to provide the practice with the high frequency words. The spelling is connected to the phonics, right? Phonics and spelling connected, but I also mentioned that not only will those words have short E on the spelling list, but they will also, you will also see some of the high frequency words on that spelling list as well. Spelling words are differentiated for your approaching level, your beyond level. So perhaps you need to differentiate the spelling list. Just know it's already been done for you, and you'll see it there for your approaching level and your beyond level students. Inside of the practice book, there are practice exercises for not only the spelling, but for the phonics, for the vocabulary, for the comprehension skill. Every skill that you teach throughout the week has independent practice to go with it. Our students have been introduced to a read aloud experience through that trade book. You've been reading to them from the big book. They have had word work instruction. They're ready to read on their own. It's a shared read. First time, they're going to read DOK levels 1 and 2, just to get the gist of it, identifying the key ideas and details. They're going to go back into that shared read for a little deeper of a dive, analyzing author's craft and structure. And then finally, you're going to see how in Wonders, students will integrate some new knowledge. So opening up that shared read in first grade, good job, Ben. What jobs need to be done in a community? We're setting that purpose. First grade students, they have it in mind why they are reading the selection, what to listen out or look for as they're reading. They're also going to predict. Always good to make some predictions as they thumb through and they're looking at the visuals and they're looking at the title. They can make some predictions. Do you see, teachers, the little speaker here? All of the selections, the big book, the trade book, the book that we see here. I'm sorry, not the trade book, the big book, the shared reading experience, full audio support. So think about, as I talked today, about listening stations or you being able to project this whole group. And while your students have their reading writing companion in front of them, you can have the consumable or the shared read displayed, whole group. Now, what are your students doing? They're underlining and reading about, they're underlining, and they're going to read aloud the word there. That was one of their high frequency words. They're going to circle and read aloud each word with the short E sound, as in bed. So our students are stopping along the way, not only to apply the foundational skills, the phonics skill, the high frequency words, but teachers, in your teacher's guide, you are going to have some prompts there. Comprehension is being applied. So know that while I'm showing you what is in the reading writing companion for students, they're making many more annotations and doing a lot more because you're prompting them with what is those questions that will appear in your teacher's guide. In the very back of the reading writing companion, students will find my sound spellings. Now, if they were digital, so they too can access their reading writing companion electronically. They can click right on, for instance, the letter E, and they can hear that eh sound. So they can be reminded, get a little refresher on all those sounds. Also in the back of the companion is handwriting. Some pages, there's handwriting instruction that they're going to do, but they can practice in these on these pages that are in the back of their reading writing companion. They're applying the foundational skills, but they're also developing that comprehension. And the focus was on character setting events. We're going back in now. First, as a teacher, you're going to explicitly explain that comprehension skill. What are characters? What is setting? What are events? Then modeling for your students. Let's go back to pages 14 and 15 and identify the character, setting, and events. And then finally, after I do, we said we utilize that gradual release model. It's going to be students' turn, but it's going to be students working together. One of my colleagues likes to say it's really not a you do, it's a y'all do, because you'll see that those two little talking heads are there, meaning that students can work together, and they'll use graphic organizers, such as the one here, to apply their understanding of that comprehension skill. Now, more practice comes in game format. Gamification is huge. Our students know not of a world void of technology. Lots of games in Wonders 2020 to practice, not only with that phonics skill, the phonemic awareness, the high frequency words. There are games that are purposeful play, we like to say, because with the completion of the game comes a report, a printable report, so that you can see exactly how your students performed when they were practicing that skill. Not only that, the results pour teachers into your teacher data dashboard. That data gets collected. When that data gets collected, a report is generated that will allow you to see what your students, well, first of all, their proficiency levels, and then also some recommendations for what students need next. And I've had many of the SPED teachers, special education teachers, say, oh, that data that is generated, those reports that are generated from that data will be helpful as we create our plans, our EIPs. So that's good for the special education teachers. And it's not just the games that produce data, the practice pages that I showed you, teachers, if you send that to your students for them to complete digitally, they're auto scored and that data pours into the data dashboard, as well as assessment data. Okay, so students can take practice. Let's go back. Let me summarize that. Mini games that students will play, learning games will produce data, and that data pours into the data dashboard. Those practice book pages, they too collect the data, and that data pours into the data dashboard. It can be taken paper pencil, by the way. Just know you have both options, but also assessments that can be taken paper pencil. And I think it's important to say that they can still be taken paper pencil, because sometimes what one school has in terms of technology is not what another school has. And sometimes what one grade level has is not necessarily what another grade level has in the same building. So just know that you have paper, pencil, and digital options, but the games, the practice, and assessments can be done digitally. Those that when the data's collected, reports are generated, you can see at a glance proficiency levels and recommendations are made. Okay, we are at a good place, teachers. We have walked through big picture as well as word work and the shared reading experience. I want to stop here and invite you to go to menti.com and hang out there for just a second, but go to menti.com. You can do this on your phone. You can go ahead now, open up another window if you're on your device, if you're on a laptop or whatever kind of device you're on. I'm going to pose a question in just a moment, but go ahead to menti.com. Let me pull out the chat box, and I'm going to cover up the screen with it for a moment and see if there are any questions. At the end, yes, I will post the username and password to get online again at the end. I definitely will. The person that entered and you are not able to hear, I'm not sure why you can't hear, but there is an option to use your computer speakers. I'm not sure if you chose that option. There is also a way for you to view the screen, but also call in with your phone, and that's acceptable as well. So you may want to back out and come back in if you can't hear me, but let me know. Maybe you've solved that problem by now. I'm not sure when you type that in. Okay, someone found the volume. Excellent. Someone said the bit.ly is great. So you found the bit.ly link. I will share that again, by the way, at the end. You know what? This is awesome. Not that many questions right now. Okay, so I'm going to take that as you are following along and you're with me. But you do ask anything that you need to know. So let me get you to where you need to go now to answer this question. What have you seen that will be helpful in teaching wonders? What have you seen up to this point that will be helpful? Now here's the code, 602829. We're going to menti.com and the code is 602829. Refer back to your notes. Maybe you already know. Oh, the interactive read aloud. Okay. You don't have to look for it. It's right there with all the instruction that goes with it. The 3 weeks to get kids ready. That's right. That is a huge benefit. I wish I'd had that. Everybody loves Start Smart. That's right. And I see you put smart, you can Smart Start or Start Smart. It's all the same. I know exactly what you mean. The games, yes. The zero unit is great. Yes, the zero unit is Start Smart. Interactive games, the results from the games, yes. But having all the options for print and digital. Let me scroll down here and see what we can see. Time built in to prepare students. Yes, Start Smart. So far, the thing I'm most excited to use will be the small group cards, okay, for students, okay, to use while you're with a whole group. And I'll share with you some more options you have for students while you're with a whole group, in addition to those cards. All of the levels, yes, at your fingertips. Great, great. Okay. So we're seeing some things that will be helpful so far. All righty. We are going to continue on. I was trying to give someone else a chance. Okay, let's keep going. All right, thank you all for participating. So where were we? We just left off with that shared read, which is a decodable text housed inside of the reading writing companion. And teachers, you just use that read to do what? To teach and to model some key skills and strategies and to help students apply the foundational skills. Well, let's talk about what's going to happen next. Students are going to turn their attention to the anchor text. Oh, that authentic literature to practice and apply what you just taught and modeled. So remember, what's our watchword? Connection, connected. Everything that was just taught and modeled in the shared read is now going to be revisited, practiced, and applied in the anchor text. So let me say something about that anchor text, first grade teachers. The first half of the school year, your students are going to have soft bound books, but at the same time, when your big books fade away, that's going to be Unit 4, that collection of authentic literature is going to be in one hardbound book. Because again, first grade, they're growing up. So you'll see, a couple of little neat transitions taking place during the school year with your first grade students and the instruction that you provide and how you provide it. Matter of fact, I'll just tell you one more. We said that shared read, we've been talking about the high frequency words, but halfway through the year, your students are going to start to see some tier 2, some, more robust vocabulary. And that's going to be a difference that you'll see. And it's a good difference. So now we've turned our attention to that authentic literature. What's the first thing you probably noticed? The genre. We are still reading in that genre realistic fiction. And the essential question, what jobs need to be done in a community? So students are broadening their knowledge base around that same essential question. Those same high frequency words are going to be highlighted when they appear within the text, and they're also going to apply those same skills. When they read about it, they also write about it. Just like they wrote about it in the shared read, they're going to write about it here. Now, here's what I want you to see with this writing. While students will find that authentic piece of literature in another book, the reading writing companion is just as the name suggests, a companion. What does a companion do? A companion never leaves you. It stays right with you to support you, to aid you. And so students return to that reading writing companion to respond to the anchor text. They are going to talk about the story. They're going to retell the story. What do we call that as students mature and they get to the upper grades? It's summarizing, right? So they're going to summarize the story. They're going to write about the story. Why did Jen get wet? How is Jen's job like the jobs in Ben's community? So now students are comparing. Remember we said they read and write across multiple texts? They're comparing the the anchor text selection to their shared read selection. So they're going to write about it. They're also going to come back and they're going to do a little talking with their classmates, use a graphic organizer to respond to the text. And that's that analytical writing. When they come to the paired selection, you're saying paired selection, that's right. Every anchor text selection has a paired selection. So now students are going to find also firefighters at work. And so they're going to be able to even analyze that text. They're still responding where? In their reading, writing companion. Finally, they will get to integrate. Integrate requires students to think beyond those text selections that they've read. And in this example here, they are going to now talk about this painting and the people in the painting. They're going to talk about what the people in the painting are doing and how this job and Jen's job are similar. So that's how we get all the way to DOK level 4 with integrating, and all of this is what? Fully supported with audio. So you have it both ways. Now, in the shared read, students have done what we call analytical writing. But you're probably also interested in the genre writing, that process writing, and know that that takes place in the reading writing companion as well. Process genre writing will be, as you see here, every unit in week 4 and 5 in first grade. And students are going to see that the grammar is connected to the writing because everything in Wonders is connected. So grammar is just not going to be in isolation. Students are going to apply that grammar to their writing as they plan. They're going to draft. They're going to revise and edit their work. And then they're going to share. And sharing is important. They'll have a nice kid-friendly rubric to make sure that they are doing all those. They've included those important elements about, in their writing that they were asked to include. And as they are listening to their classmates read their selections or their writings, that they're making sure that they're listening attentively and they are doing all of those, applying or demonstrating all of those practices from how to listen attentively, how to ask questions that show that you were listening attentively, staying on topic. And that goes back to that social emotional learning with showing respect. So students are going to learn all of these skills, and that social emotional learning is going to come in because it's what? Integrated. At the beginning of every unit, you'll see the skills, those competencies that you are focusing on. From whole group to small group instruction. Teachers always say, I know what I'm doing when I'm at the small group table. It's what's happening over here, way over here. So let's talk about what you're doing, though, and what those other students in the classroom are doing that's very focused still on what you've taught whole group. Well, one thing that you're doing, first grade teachers, is you are delivering skill-focused lessons. In your teacher's guide, in the yellow pages, you're going to find skill-focused lessons for approaching level, on grade level, beyond level students, and your English language learners. Now, in this example that you see here, you're just seeing the approaching level. But again, you have it for all levels of learners. And what are these skills? These are the skills that you have taught whole group. Approaching level students may need for you to go back and reteach the phonics in a different way. revisit that comprehension skill in a different way. Our on grade level students, what you would see there would be some more practice opportunities, maybe just a review, not necessarily a reteaching. We're going to extend for those beyond language learners. And of course, if we have English language learner teachers on the call or in the meeting today, you know that there are some very specific research-based techniques that you use with your students. You're going to find those in the purple pages in small group instruction. So you'll focus on skills. What else would you do at the small group table? Well, remember the level, not the level, but the decodable readers. We saw them reference. Perhaps you are at the small group table using the decodable readers with students, and you'll receive 6 copies of each of the decodable readers. By the way, they're online. You can print additional copies if you need them. And in those leveled, why am I saying leveled? Because we're about to come to level readers. In those decodable readers, you are going to find, what do I see right here? Short E. Students are able to apply that phonics skill that was the focus for this particular week. Now, in the teacher's guide, it's going to be referenced where those small group pages are. So I pointed this out earlier, but T69 and T76, and that's taking me right here to the yellow pages. And in that instruction, you'll be perhaps starting out with the word building cards and practicing with that short E sound before you jump right into the decodable. All of these are options for you, designed to be flexible. You will make a decision based off of your good teacher judgment, the observations that you've made, and the formative assessments that you have provided. You'll also have the opportunity to go back and review with the sound spelling cards and the word building cards. But these are different options that you have before just jumping right in and reading the decodables with your students. Where can we find a routine for using the decodables? The Instructional Routines Handbook. Every part of the instruction has a routine. And even the decodable readers, sometimes teachers just get the decodable readers because no one gave them a routine before, and we just begin reading. You'll be happy to know that inside your Instructional Routines Handbook, there is an actual routine to most effectively use those decodable readers. So remember, I'm going to show you where to find those in just a moment. All right, I'm gonna move a little quicker so we can get to the digital. Level readers. I kept saying level readers because you have a variety of level readers. Sometimes those level readers teachers will be fiction. Other times those level readers will be nonfiction. No matter fiction or nonfiction, here's what will always be true. Same essential question. Wow. Same comprehension strategy from whole group. Same comprehension skill, high frequency words, phonics skill, allowing that, remember we saw earlier, that intentional redundancy. Practice, 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 because that is what is going to allow our students to go deeper and ultimately achieve mastery. And so with the level readers, know that that connection is there. When the level readers are nonfiction, you're going to actually see the same title even across all of the level readers. But like I said, it will always be the same essential question and the same skills and strategies. The level readers, teachers, can be downloaded and printed as well. Full audio support online. Think about how you want to utilize these. You're going to get 6 copies of Approaching Level, 6 of the On, 6 of the Beyond, and 6 of the ELL with more additional copies should you need them. You can print them from online. So that's fantastic. When you open up the level readers and come to about midway through, after that first selection, there's going to be the respond to reading page where, look here, the same graphic organizer that you taught and modeled with the shared read, that students used again with the anchor text, now another opportunity with the leveled readers. Text-dependent questions, because we're always citing text evidence and applying that same comprehension skill, okay? Inside the leveled reader is a paired selection. Just like we saw with the anchor text, it had a paired selection. Your leveled reader has a paired selection at the post office. So now students can what? Compare text. Fantastic. Turn it on the back and the leveled reader, you will find the guided reading, benchmark, and Lexile levels. I think in Shelby County, you pretty much go by the Lexile levels. Just know you have all three leveling systems there. It's identified there for you. Guided, leveled reader lesson cards, as well as guided reading lessons in your teacher's guide for all levels of learners. So lesson cards are coming to you for your leveled readers, but you also have in the yellow pages, you have instruction both ways. And anytime there is an element of that text that the authorship team felt, this is something that could be confusing to students and cause them to stumble, like some unfamiliar vocabulary or just really challenging vocabulary, or the lack of prior knowledge, or the connection of ideas. We're going to make sure that we call that out in the ACT boxes. So teachers, you will see something called throughout your teacher's guide, what makes the text complex? And so that will be an opportunity for you to go ahead and address it with your students, provide some scaffolding so that your students can overcome that hurdle when they come to it. Workstation cards. This is something that one of the teachers said just now they were looking forward to. Every skill that you teach is going to be what? Tied to a Tennessee ELA standard. And that skill here is around the character setting and events. There's a reading workstation card. There's one for writing, one for social studies or science, and one for phonics word work. Now on the front of the card is the on grade level activity. Turn the card on the back, it has already been modified for approaching level students as well as your beyond level students. These activities, teachers, are designed for students to work together, so they're partnering up. Maybe sometimes it's even appropriate for 3 students to work together. So here's what I want you to picture. You have some students around the room working on different activities with the workstation cards. How about this? From the previous week's lesson, could it be a good idea to bring some of those cards back? Because again, the repetition is key. And so we can still continue to use those workstation cards from the previous week. Then we have the games. Some students are around the room and they are purposeful play. They're working on some of the learning games that, again, are reinforcing the skills that they've been learning whole group. Some students remember the practice book. Some students are now working independently. Some of the practice exercises for every skill that you've taught. And if you assign it to your students digitally, then it is auto-graded. We talked about that. And then there are many other activities as well. The key takeaway as we've come to this point in the presentation is that you have seen demonstrated the connectedness, the essential question, and all of the resources that help students to develop, build knowledge around that essential question through every text selection. And that is going to, of course, put our students on the path to becoming strong readers and writers, especially with their reading, writing companion. That's a great tool too. So same focus with our skills and with our essential question, not only true for whole group, but also for small group as well. One more little Menti activity. So get ready to go to menti.com now. I'm going to ask you one more question. Menti.com. And now that you've seen, oh, someone has already, how did someone take this Menti already? I like the picture and vocabulary cards. Okay. Menti.com. The code is 602829. How will connected text help your students build knowledge? Now that you've seen that all of the text, including the big book, first grade teachers, that you read to your students, the big book, the interactive read aloud, all of the shared read, the anchor text, they all have the same key concepts, okay? Thank you. How will connected text help your students build knowledge? It will provide various materials and practice to ensure success. Great. Let me hear from you. Thank you. You like the repetition. Awesome. The students have been exposed to a variety of ways to learn the same skills. Yes. Students are able to compare and contrast. There are multiple opportunities. Absolutely. Hands-on work using the cards and learning games, right? Different modalities. Not all of our students learn the same. I think you're going to see you're addressing various learning styles. The students will be more familiar with the genre and similar things, right? Don't forget about your anchor charts to make sure that they can see that learning unfold and refer back to it. The scaffolding. Awesome. Okay. I'm satisfied. So we're going to keep moving on. We're going to go into assessment. This is going to be quick, and then we are online. Okay. So you've been doing a lot of teaching. At the end of the unit, teachers, formative assessments. In the reading, writing companion, you'll find show what you learned. This is a great way for you to circle back around. Look, the genre, realistic fiction and nonfiction. So show what you learned will be at the end of every unit found inside the reading, writing companion. So look for that because sometimes it gets overlooked. That's one formative assessment. But also very key is this one. Now, this can also be taken digitally, first grade teachers. And if it's taken digitally, you know that it's auto-scored. It pours into the data dashboard, right? It can also be taken paper pencil. What is inside of that progress monitoring assessment? The first skill, we started out beginning with the end in mind, right? And we looked at the learning outcomes, the student outcomes, and we looked at the little red check marks. And we know that that comprehension skill was, we knew that it was going to be assessed, and it is assessed. Students are going to be introduced to a cold, fresh read. Now it's Greg Can Help. And they're going to have some comprehension questions. They're also you're going to have a chart like this that lets you know the answer. So if you do decide to do a paper pencil and how many questions are related to that comprehension skill. You're also going to assess the high frequency words, the phonemic awareness and phonics. Of course, there will be a little part for you to read for the phonemic awareness, but then it will be on to the phonics, the short E sound, but also you're going to assess inflectional ending, ED. And we saw all of that up front. Okay, so that is going to be in your progress monitoring assessment book. We began discussing the placement and diagnostic assessment. I'm coming back around to it because while it does have assessments that you would want to administer during Start Smart, you'll also find some assessments that can be administered during the year. And so again, you'll turn to your district for these specific assessments that will be used. Unit assessments and benchmark assessments as well. And there is a wonderful tool online that is an assessment handbook. You know what it tells you? It tells you exactly when the assessment is used and how to use it. And it's just in one little book called the Assessment Handbook. But if you go online, and I'll show you where to find these assessments, all of these assessments you can find digitally. You open up to the front pages and it explains to you when it's used. For instance, the unit assessment, odd numbered units tells you what they assess. Even numbered units assess something a little bit differently. So we'll go online right now. How about that? And I'll show you where to find all of this and more. So someone asked me in the chat, will you please put up the login information again? So here it is. I'm going to be quiet and sip on some water for a second and give you a chance to get this down. I'm also going to get the chat box out. It's going to cover up part of the screen for a moment, right over here, and see if there are any questions. You're welcome for the chat. For the digital login. Are there weekly reading comprehension assessments? Yes, that progress monitoring that I just put up, that is weekly comprehension. The first part of that assessment was comprehension, and it's going to be for each week and the skills taught that week. Now, someone is asking, what is the code? Oh, okay. Maybe you found the code. It was up at the top of the screen. At the end, will you post the username and password again? Okay, here that is. Okay, so I think I've gotten everything. Okay, I think we're together now. All right, everyone is with the information to get logged in, and I need to get to the login. So you were here and you clicked login. And once you come to this landing page, it's nice that first grade is right up at the top. That leaves kindergarten teachers always wondering, well, where's kindergarten? And for some reason, kindergarten, so if you're a special ed teacher or ELL teacher and you want to look through all of the grade levels, let me just tell you that kindergarten, for whatever reason, is always at the bottom. So just scroll on down to the very bottom. We didn't forget about kinder. Okay, so we're going to mouse right over the cover of the teacher edition, and voila, you are going to land somewhere, maybe where I am, maybe somewhere different. Here's what's important to know. You have up at the top, teachers, a menu to go to plan and resources, assessment, and so on. And when you scroll over, notice that there's a drop down and there are many other places to visit from there. If I go right here to assessment, and this isn't normally where I start, but since we were just talking about assessment and I told you I would show you where to find those assessments, let me just go to assessment and printable assessments. So you can do that too if you like. And this is something that you would not know on your own. So pay attention. Where are the assessments? Well, notice that in my drop-down menu under the Wonders logo, I'm on Unit 0. And what is Unit 0? Unit 0, as you know, digitally is Start Smart. Let's see what happens if I change this to Unit 1, Week 1. Something just populated. And here is that unit assessment for Unit 1, Week 1. I'm going to go ahead and open it just so you can get an idea. that is that progress monitoring tool by the week. So there's the first reading selection. And if I scroll through, we're going to come to the what? Comprehension questions. So it's going to be for the comprehension, the what else? High frequency words, structural analysis, everything that we just looked at. Okay. So there is another drop down menu under Wonders, under that logo. And depending on what's selected there, you're going to find the appropriate assessment. So we're still under assessment. And this time I'm going to go Unit 1, Week 6. Now, who remembers what happens Week 6? That's right. Week 6, we started out was review and assess, and sometimes what? Catch up. So now we can find the unit assessment. So it's important to know that in the drop-down menu, you are always selecting a unit over on the left and a week of instruction over on the right. And that's true whether you were under assessment or anywhere else. How do we get home whenever we, something else, before we go home, something else. Assessment handbook. Let's click there. And all of what we did was we broke out the pages of that assessment handbook. So this assessment handbook will, let me just go ahead and open it for you because I think we have time. Give you an overview of all of the different assessments in Wonders, what they are. So let me enlarge that on the screen. Here's that placement and diagnostic. It tells you all the different types of assessments that are included. But not only that, when to give it and how to give it. So that handbook is a great little tool to take a look at. I'm out of some of these resources. Out of there and come out of there. Oh, did I just kick myself out? I may have. Give me 1 second to go back. And sometimes, okay, so you know where to find your assessments. Let's now take a look at, under the Wonders logo, let's choose a unit. We were looking today at Unit 2. So I'm going to go to Unit 2 and Week 1. And let's see if we see something familiar. Jobs around town. What jobs need to be done in a community? Okay, that was our focus today. So here are a few key tools that you have to support instruction. A full, ready-to-go presentation. I go down and click Launch. I can launch that presentation. This is going to be a presentation for what? Unit 2, Week 1. First thing I'll see is the introduction to our community. And there's that essential question. But also in this presentation, and I did that kind of quickly. Let me show you what just happened. If you were with me, teachers, and you pulled up this page, you did not see what I just did. Where is the rest of the presentation? Because this is the companion. Where's the rest of the presentation? Go back to your browser. I'm scrolling over my Chrome browser, and what opened, do you see here, is the presentation in another window. So you do have it. So go ahead and find your presentation, and I can use this little arrow button to go from slide to slide. Now also in this presentation, you have that essential question video that we talked about, and lots of other resources built into the presentation. You have your visual vocabulary cards, Isabel Beck's guided routine for teaching the vocabulary. First, a visual, and oftentimes a video. This one has a video. I know you can't hear it on my screen, but go ahead and play it for yourself. And then if you click routine, there's that research-based routine. An occupation is a job that someone does. Teacher, doctor, and truck driver are all good occupations. And then you would ask the question to a student, what occupation would you like to have when you grow up? And the idea of first grade teachers is that students respond to you not just with, I want to be president. You want them to use the word occupation. So you would direct them to let's use the word occupation. The occupation I would like to have when I grow up is to be president. And so this is going to allow you to gauge whether or not your students truly understand the meaning of that word. So your visual vocabulary cards are there. All of your big books and share reads are here with full audio support. Your sound spelling cards and the other various tools that you're going to use are here. And you can make them large, you can make them small, but just know that all of those tools are right here for you digitally. In addition, let's come out and go back out of the presentation. You're going to find weekly printables. So teachers like to use the presentation, but I want you to know that while all of the resources are tucked into the presentation, you can get to them in many different places. And that's because we don't want you spinning your wheels looking for the one place a resource lives. So it's in many different places. Your printables for the week. Remember we talked about the practice? Well, here it says Unit 2, Week 1 practice book. And there's a little gear or cog or wheel, some people call it. If I drop down on that gear and then I say, open, you can open up the interactive version or just a regular PDF. We're going to see the practice for the phonemic awareness, for the phonics, our spelling practice, all of the practice for the week right here. Now, remember, that practice can be taken many different ways, right? It can be taken paper, pencil, but you can also assign it, and then it's going to be auto-scored. So you'll decide the best way to do it. Now let's scroll down a bit more, and we have this week's games. If I wanted to assign this comprehension practice to one of my students, that same little gear, when you drop down on it, there's that option to assign this resource. Now, just know that your students have all of the appropriate resources, the reads for the week, and the games in their own student center. So they'll be able to get to them, but there may be something specific that you want them to have front and center. You can differentiate, right? There may be something that you want to send to these 5 students, but it's not for the other students. Maybe you're going to extend learning for some of the students and you want to enrich that with a game that others aren't quite yet ready for. You can make that determination, but that's where you find the games. Now, the next place I want to go is up here to the top, resources, and then resource library. So up at the top, resources, resource library, and what you want to put your hands on maybe instantly will be, well, there's our companion, by the way, the leveled readers for the week, but there is another drop down. So this is important, teachers. We've been using the drop down right here under the Wonders logo. But when we scroll down under resources, to make it easy to filter the resources, we're going to use this drop down to go back to Unit 1, Unit 2, and select Week 1 and search. And now we have, there's Millie Waits for Me. That must be that big book. There it is. Now you're going to get the resources that just support that particular unit 2 and week 1. Again, and you'll see the various resources for that unit. Now you can filter down, you can even more so. You can say, where is my teacher's edition? Teacher resources. And once you get to teacher resources, you're going to find teacher edition. You want the teacher edition for unit 2, you'll click on unit 2. But let me point out Start Smart. So many of you said, oh, I love Start Smart. Where is that? And we do encourage you to jump into Start Smart early. So you're going to click on unit 1. So one more time, just in case somebody got excited and you were looking at something else just now, and then you heard me say Start Smart, and you're like, wait a minute, where are you? Let's go back. Up at the top, resources, resource library. Then we're going to scroll down. And because we're looking for the teacher's edition, we're just going to scroll down to teacher resources in the menu. And then unit 1, teacher edition, unit 1. Now, once you get there to teacher edition, unit 1, you see several different visuals. This one says teacher edition, unit 1, overview and Start Smart. That is where you're going to find that teacher's edition. I'm going to click on the little gear and I can click open this resource, or I can just mouse over it and click right on the cover. Once you do, you can scroll through and you will find the pages and eventually come to Start Smart. But this scrolling, I don't know about you, but I would prefer if I could just open up the pages side by side for Start Smart. And for that matter, for all of my lessons. So here's your Start Smart. How do you do that? Make sure that you come over and you download. So you want to download the unit that you are working with. And when you do, and you open it up, you're going to get the option to be able to look at the pages side by side. You can type in the pages. You'll have that different experience. But if you just open it, you will need to scroll. So I want to remind you that in the digital environment, Start Smart is separated from the rest of Unit 1. If you wanted just Unit 1, Week 1, you're going to click here on Unit 1, Week 1. When you receive the physical copies of your teacher's edition, Start Smart and the whole Unit 1 is what? Together in one book. Each unit compiled together in one book. Okay, but in the digital environment, we've separated it out just to make it easy, and you're not trying to download so much at one time. All right, so you know how to find your teacher's editions. Something else that will be helpful for you getting started will be, let's see, let's go up to the very top, and this time, so we looked at assessment, we looked at resources. Let's go to resources, professional development. Let's find that instructional routines handbook that teachers love, that's going to provide even more explicit, stepped out instruction. Once you go, again, resources, professional development, scroll down, menu over to the left, click instructional routines. Very first resource up at the top is the Instructional Routines Handbook. Please, 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 can't say it enough, get acquainted over the summer. If you have time, like I told the group yesterday, it makes for great bedtime reading, but it also makes for great reading sitting out in the sun while you're social distancing and just having that time by yourself. Consider the Instructional Routines Handbook. Okay, so you know where to find that, teachers. And then something else, we talked about those model lessons. So we know the routines are here, But you're saying, I want to see it in action. Professional development, and then click on classroom videos. Once you're here at classroom videos, you are going to find countless videos that are going to show you real teachers in the classroom, full phonics lessons. I wish I could I wish my audio was coming through because I would play it, but I know you have the digital access, so you're able to. But you'll know by how some of the kids respond that this is not rehearsed. So it's quite authentic, and the sound spelling cards are being used. You're going to see the resources in Wonders being used, but you're going to see the application of those research-based strategies and routines. So check out the classroom videos. Now I'm going to go into the chat box. Here's what I'm going to do really quick. I'm going to open up my chat box, and I want to see if you have asked me any questions or if you want me to show you something in particular right now. How do I get volume? Okay, I'm sorry that I can't help you, LaShawn, with the volume. If you did not select for it to come through your computer, then there is a dial-in option. Oh, you said you have it. Okay, good. I've been trying to enter the meeting. Okay, I think I went back too far. Let's see. Someone figured out the sound. Great. Are there weekly reading? Okay, great. Okay. Any questions? Type in while I'm here. We have 5 minutes. Before I'm going to share the bit.ly again for anyone that joined late. Make sure you have that. But before I leave the digital site, is there anything in particular that's going to help you get started you want to see right now online that I can show you? Do we have any special education teachers on? Let me go ahead and go to resources, resource library. And this is for regular ed teachers too. With your Wonders program, if you come to that menu under resource library, click on Tier 2 intervention guides. This is for the regular teacher, so first grade teachers, and special education teachers. Special education teachers, you have more than just struggling students. I understand that your students may be visually impaired. They may be behavioral. There may be a host of needs that you're meeting. But sometimes you also have those students that need some additional support academically. And I want you to check out the comprehension, fluency, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, and phonics word study guides, because teachers say all the time when they discover this, I went through the whole year last year and didn't know that those books were there, and I really could have benefited from those with my classroom. I'm excited to have them now, but now you know where they are. So please take a look at these, okay? All right, I'm not going to, okay, is the bit.ly different from the website? Yes, the bit.ly is different from the website. So I'm going to come offline, taking my cue from you that you're good to go there. And let me return to the bit.ly real quick and make sure that everybody has that. So the bit.ly is this link here, bit.ly, and you can see the rest. Make sure you take a picture so that you can find some of the resources that we've talked about and more have been placed in folders there by grade level, because we felt that was what would be most important and not overwhelm you. Now, I feel like many of you are going to move forward, and that's a good thing. You have the digital access, so by all means, under that professional development tab, you are free to explore any of the professional development that is there. And so take advantage of it. Okay, so I'm going to assume that everyone has the bit.ly link now. All right. Our learning objectives, we are right at 2:59. We started with the objectives. Let's wrap up. You should have gained an understanding of the main print components and their instructional purpose. Understand the unit structure and lesson format. Hopefully you remember the big idea. All of the essential questions for each week are related to that big idea and how that lesson is going to unfold. We talked about, let me move that chat box out of the way, gaining an understanding of the assessment options. We've covered that, as well as I've shown you some professional development support. I hope that you will have a wonderful year and summer teaching with Wonders 2020. I'm going to continue to be here to support you. As I said, you're going to have many more trainings, but please go ahead and take down my email address because you may have a question to pop up an hour from now or tomorrow at any time. Feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to give you the answer immediately if I know it, and I'll find out the answer if I don't know it. Okay, last call for any other questions. If not, I'm going to leave this chat box up for a second. I'm going to bid you a farewell and a great rest of your Thursday, teachers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have, as always, enjoyed being with you, and we're going to meet again. We'll meet again soon. So if there, we have 33 on the call. We started out with my lucky number. My lucky number is 13, and now we're looking at 33, which is far less than the numbers that we've had throughout the week, which tells me that first grade teachers are getting up to speed. All right, I'm going to close out, everyone, and thank you again.